The way marketing is now functioning is not about positioning or branding. It's not anymore a cost function. It's not about just adding frills and flowers to what the brand looks like. It's all about the story that I want to give out to my consumers through my brand. And that story is something that is going to bring revenue to my brand. It's not about what I sell, it's about how I sell. So we have a god, the name Shiv. So it's the language of this god. It's basically the right language, which is the truthful language.
Welcome back to the Rubasha Family Podcast. I have a very, very, very special guest in the building. I have Shivani Bhalla Narang, a fractional CMO and marketing transformational specialist, helping businesses of all sizes scale through AI, MarTech, CX, innovation. She's a marketing leader who thrives at the intersection of strategy, technology, and growth. She has spent over 20 years, 2 decades of experience across B2B SaaS and technology ecosystems, helping organizations unlock measurable business impact through data-driven, AI-led marketing transformation. She is the founder of OK Digital, where she partners strategically with C-suites and founders across UAE, India, and APAC to modernize their marketing engines, from demand generation and MarTech integration to go-to-market strategy and customer experience excellence. In her role as a fractional CMO, she really plays a very strategical bridge between a strategic intent and execution, empowering organizations to scale sustainably, build high-performing marketing teams, and strengthen brand equity in competitive markets. What drives Shivani is her passion and imagination in transforming marketing from a support function into a growth engine in your business, aligning creativity, automation, and analytics to deliver measurable outcomes. She has specialties in B2B growth strategy, her fractional CMO leadership, AI and MarTech integration, most importantly with demand generation, brand positioning based in India, Dubai, working across the world. Thank you so much for joining the show.
Such a pleasure, Sagira, and that's a wonderful, wonderful detailed description about my work. Pleasure to be here.
No worries. Thank you so much. Shivani, I mean, 20 years, that's 2 decades, right? I mean, I am 29. So, maybe since maybe from 9 years of age, you've been doing what you've been doing and you're looking as beautiful and as young as ever. So can you talk to us a little bit about how this started? How did this journey into marketing start for you?
Marketing is all about storytelling. Dad, when we first started this business, what did you say to me?
I said, yes, we do a podcast
Why?
because I want to tell our story.
Why?
Because I know the story builds a legacy.
Build a legacy. And that is exactly what we do here at ETS Rubasha Media. We market your story on social media so you could build a legacy for those who come after you, to build your business and your personal brand.
Yeah, follow us on our platform. Go on our website, etsrubashamedia.com.
This is about legacy, and it is about showing up on social media every single day, because if you don't show up, your competition will.
So, it started coincidentally, I would say. I'm an engineer by my qualifications, and I'd always wanted to be on the creative side of business and corporate life. And while I started my career as a programmer and into customer experience, but I accidentally got into an agency, which was one of the first agencies who started digital marketing with global clients. This was something that resonated with me for the reason that I always kind of looked up towards what's trending in, and which is a beautiful blend. Anything which is a beautiful blend of technology and creativity was something that I had a personal interest in. For the reason that when I stepped into this stream of work, digital marketing was more of, I would say, brick and mortar. It was intelligent work, but it was not as volatile and dynamic. It was more about, certain tasks to be done in a certain manner. I've seen the entire landscape getting changed completely from where it was to where it is today. And for the reason that I would say that initially, digital marketing was one part of marketing where there was a lot of concern over the trust or the activities that are needed in digital, because there was a certain apprehension for consumers to believe in anything which is available on the web virtually and not there physically, you see. And that's where there was a pivot in the way consumer behavior changed, because what they did not really trust earlier became something which they only trust now. That's the only medium that they trust now, because that gives them, or that empowers them to take a choice in their own manner, vertically and horizontally, in terms of the choices and the priorities. So it's something which I've kind of grown in from the time it got incepted, it started, and to where it is today.
Can you talk about what were some of those signs that you saw that you can see a shift in changing? What did you see was changing that you said, wait a minute, there's something going different in this marketing space and in the world of digital marketing? What was that?
So, Kira, you know how digital marketing was years back, where I started in 2005. And, it was about doing it in a very brick and mortar manner, where certain things had to be just done. Maybe the number of links to be created, certain keywords to be added to the content, certain interlinking activities externally and internally done. So, this was digital marketing. And you kind of divide it in SEO or social media or content writing. Everything became in a very standardized manner. However, as the market became cluttered and there were algorithm changes, of course Google was playing absolutely smart with the way market was evolving with digital marketing. The businesses were evolving or adapting to digital marketing techniques. Google's algorithms were proactive in terms of ensuring that this is not just for the machines, this is meant to be done for humans. That's where the pivot happened, and anything and everything became customer centric. You see, anything which is meant for customers is automatically meant for machines. And that's what Google, because it obviously became one of the best or the most popular search engines. So the algorithms kind of enforced the organizations or the agencies to adapt to those methodologies which were no more brick and mortar. That was a change, huge change.
There's so many things I want to go off there, but you talked about this change from the brick and mortar. Can you explain that a little bit more?
When we say brick and mortar, it's something that so in search engine optimization, where we want to organically rank our website, you know, it was all about just getting a list of bunch of keywords, putting them on the content, doing certain on-page activities, doing certain off-page activities, which were about building links. There were link directories. There were certain, reciprocations and the non-reciprocations of links that were created, just to ensure where quantity of links mattered more than the quality of activities that are done on the website. That kind of, when I say brick and mortar, the quantity was something which was counted, which was accounted, and that kind of increased the credibility or the domain authority of a website, which became very standardized, and everybody started following, okay, it's about building 500 links, it's about building 1,000 links, but it's not the case anymore. If any organization today is looking at building certain quantities in term in place of qualities, they will be in a bad position, because that would not really matter for what their consumers want. Consumers today want information which is relevant for them, which is meant for them for a particular journey that the customers or the organization expects them from. And if a consumer is happy, that's where the algorithms are happy. And today we are in a completely different world, where it's about, generative AI, it's about a different kind of SEO, a different kind of rankings. It's no more about ranking on Google. It's more about ranking on, the Gen AI platforms. So things are different. Today, if I'm having a lot of content on my website, but I'm not ranking anywhere on maybe the chat GPTs or the Claudes or the Perplexities or, the Groks, I'm losing out on my major chunk of the market share of my consumers. So it's a complete change.
I think that's very big what you just said there, and I don't want to let that go over people's heads. So the $1 million question is, Shivani, how do people show up on Claude, on Grok, on all these vital places? Because do you know what? You're absolutely right. When I Google things now, I actually use Google. It's funny I say that, but I don't go on Google as much anymore. What do? When I go on Google something and say, hey, ChatGPT, where is the best mortgage broker? Where is whatever, right? So how does now the people who are watching this, Shivani, or the C-suites that you work with, or the business owners, the small to medium, who relate to you, who need even a fractional CMO, who, can't afford, let's say, a huge CMO, how can they show up on all these platforms, like you said, and this shift that's happening? Because you're right, if you're not showing up there, you're losing market share. So how does one show up on these platforms so that they can get their business out there?
The strategy is completely different, I would say. The initial focus was a lot on, I want to rank on the number one page of my search engine result pages of, say, Google or any of the search engines which are relevant for the geography and the business. However, today, my KPI is completely different. I'm focusing more on the engagement that I'm getting from not just Google or search engines, but also from the various chat GPTs or the Gen AI platforms. And how there are obviously this strategic lever is one of the important aspect, where how do I ensure I get the best market share on these platforms, and the tactical aspect completely gets it's resonating with what the strategy is. My tactical aspect would be I'm going to build content of anything and everything that my consumer would want in terms of the question they ask. So, my content is relevant. My content is actually answering the question or the potential question that my customer or my consumer is going to ask. And that's where I'm going to position myself on these platforms. And I'm going to be maybe in the number one or the number two, but I would be definitely a part of the entire output that these platforms would provide to the consumer. So, like you just said, you pick up ChatGPT, you're putting a voice prompt, and you get answers, and those answers might have 3 to 5 sources of information, which is consolidated into one answer. I want to be a part of that, right? So, I'm going to build my content accordingly.
So the question remains: how do you build your content accordingly so you can show up on those places? So maybe let's put it a practical example. Let's say there's someone here on LinkedIn, and I've just been seeing some comments come through. Thank you for supporting, guys. Let's say you run a lead generation company, right? You help clients with client acquisition, and what do people want? People want more clients, right? So how do you, the way you just said it, you're supposed to build content strategically. How does one now go about that?
So, content is something which is very, very, it's a very wide aspect of tactical activities that, the marketing teams now work on. The communication strategy or the communication part has become a very important aspect of any marketing function, because it is not just about the narrative that the company or the marketing function is choosing for the consumers, but it is also about how do I provide that personalized information to my consumers in a certain manner. And that would be through your website, that would be through your social media. There are a lot of outside channels where the information gets floated. Now, how is ChatGPT working, or how is all other Gen AI platforms are working? They're ultimately picking information from all the sources that are available on all the digital channels. You see? So my communication or my content has to be present on all these channels, so that when it's something which is very relevant to the keywords or the question that my consumers are asking, it is automatically picking the information, and it's a part of the output that goes out.
Wow, that's incredibly valuable in this day and age, and for companies to go out there. And what would be your advice for the go to market strategies? What are some, when it comes to going to market for some of these companies, how do they have a effective marketing function?
It's very different now, I would say. It's if I talk of startups, if I talk of SMEs. In fact, there's one of the posts that I just rolled out today, which was around how we are bifurcating the roles that differ in terms of the way the size of the organization, the scale of the organization is. For a startup, the way marketing is going to work is going to be different than how it's going to work for an SME to how it's working for an enterprise. Now, basically, what happens is the way marketing is now functioning is not about positioning or branding. It's not anymore a cost function. It's not about just adding frills and flowers to what the brand looks like. It's all about the story that I want to give out to my consumers through my brand. And that story is something that is going to bring revenue to my brand. It's not about what I sell, it's about how I sell, you know. So it's completely different. And obviously, it's not just all about going out with your content. There's a lot of consumption of data which is there with the organization, which is unattended. It's not something which is leveraged. Maybe the enterprises are working on it now, but now the SMBs are putting a lot of investment in technology and data consolidation, because that is something that is going to give them insights of what has worked and what has not worked in the historical data, and which is immediately going to give us predictive understanding about what might work in near future and what not might work in the near future. So there's a lot of integrated tech involvement or integrated marketing tools, suites that the organizations must look at, which is not just about, having a CRM or having a automated tool for maybe email marketing. It's a complete consolidated integrated marketing stack that an organization requires, which is not just about connecting dots for all the marketing verticals, but it's also connecting dots with other functions. And when I say other functions, how is sales working today? Maybe how the sales department or the function is working today is very closely connected to how the marketing is actually, giving them insights, giving them, empowering them with the content, or the journey of consumers is actually being taken care by marketing before it goes to sales, and that's where the half of their job is done. So it's all about, connecting those dots together, and that's where the tech integration or the MarTech integration is something which is playing a very important role.
Can you give an example on how marketing plays a function and gets them halfway there for then the sales to do the job? Because you just said it, right? When the marketing brings them to the sales, the job is already halfway done. Because I feel like a lot of, and maybe you can add on this, sometimes companies get that wrong. The functions between sales and marketing, sometimes they may see it as two different things, but they all, facilitate each other. So can you talk a little bit about an example of how the marketing now helps the sales get the job halfway done, for example?
Sure. So, let us cite an example. Now, any one of us, okay, I am from a sales, I'm leading the sales, or, I may be given a task of meeting my targets, where I have to just, I'm probably somebody who's on the field and I'm representing one of the software products that has recently been launched. Even though my brand is existing for, say, 5 years, but this is a new product. Now, if I go out and through my lead generation information, I'm going out and talking from scratch about what my product is all about, what my brand is all about, there is a lot of time wastage that I'm doing. And also, I'm actually starting from A, you know who am I, what do I do, what is it that my product is. And obviously these products are something, somewhere they are all kind of there in the market, and people do not have so much time to go through scratch. And obviously you'll sales executive or leader would be going through a level of people to in an organization to maybe incept themselves into that sort of selling that they want to do. However, if an organization has a very strong marketing, 40 to 50% of the job of sales has already been done by them. Identifying consumers, giving them the relevant information through personalized content, doing a lot of brand recall so that if somebody from my organization is calling them, it is not a first time information they're selling or they're talking about. I would also understand the potential aspect of this consumer, whether how warm or what is the kind of selling or effort I would require to do with the data that I'm going to capture with this technology, tools integration that I do. I can identify which is a big ticket consumer client for me, which is a medium ticket client for me, and which is a small ticket client for me, but I might have a wonderful, long time value with this consumer. So all these information based data is something that the marketing collects and provides to sales for that empowerment. A lot of times that there's a lot of user generated content that has been created by these organizations, and the organizations that are building that are automatically creating the trust and the credibility that that salesperson do not has he doesn't have to talk about it, because it's already been built by the marketing team or the marketing of that function. So the branding and the marketing of that organization is already doing a lot of job, a big time job of building that credibility and trust, and it kind of gets build that hook or a lead magnet for any consumer to take your brand seriously.
Would you have any example off the top of your head that a company that does that really well?
See, there are a lot of organizations now, and specifically, I would say product based organizations, software product based organizations. Let's talk of, say, HubSpot. It's one of the biggest examples that any organization, the world would talk about. They have beautifully built user generated content. Zoho, one of the India based software product companies, they're doing a fantastic job. Odoo, again, a lot of user-based content that's rolling out. So there are a lot of organizations, I would specifically say product-based organizations in B2B world are doing this now, and they're fairly, getting that, building that trust. SAP. In fact, I would say a lot of companies these days, they themselves, the leaders have become brand endorsers of their own organization, because they talk about the kind of work they're doing, the kind of insights, the kind of success stories they're building through their services, through their products. And that's a beautiful technique that any B2B organization can actually leverage by building their own employees as their own brand endorsers. And they could be their first consumers or customers, and your consumers and customers can be your employees because they can talk about your product. So it's a wonderful handshake which organizations are currently following. There are a few good examples, and I think it's working out pretty well for all of these businesses.
And actually, even when I think of one top of mind right now, when you brought up those companies, Go High Level, I think they've also, done a good job in that aspect as well. You talk about like GEO drives the next wave of growth. What do you mean by that? What is GEO? If for the people who don't know what that means.
It's generative. You're talking of geography or the generative
Yeah,
optimization.
the marketing side.
So it's again something which is around, how do I ensure that my content is something which is visible on the chat GPTs of the world. And that's where I'm going to optimize my content in such a way that it's something which is very, very much catchy or picked by the chatbots or the agents that give information on these platforms.
And so now, how can someone use that practically within their business to be able to succeed in the long term?
Again, like I said, see, the KPIs are completely changing. Today, my one of the essential KPI that I would look at is tracking share of AI answer citations through these platforms. AI source engagement rates and conversion rates. Now, how would that happen? From these analytic tools, we evaluate, we analyze what are the sources of engagement or traffic or customers we are getting from. And you would see a lot of them, a significant chunk of this traffic is actually coming from the chat GPTs, the Perplexity or the Claude or the Croak platforms. And I want to make sure that, my engagement rate is leading to a higher conversion rate from these platforms. So I'm going to maintain my SEO activities while pivoting to generative engine optimization for ensuring that I get the right discovery, I give the right relevance, and I give the proximity of giving the maximum conversions to my users or from my users. Basically now how AI is going to build some qualifiers who are actually, looking at a very intelligent information and not just a sales driven information from these platforms.
Wow, that's incredibly powerful, which now kind of leads me to a little bit of your experience. Can you talk about, you don't have to go into specifics, but like, how when you working across C-suite companies, APAC, UAE, India, can you tell us any stories that, they needed you for? What problem did they have? And how did you help them with your CMO, skills, get them on the other side when it comes to marketing and helping them grow around demand generation and a lot of your specialties?
So again, it's very different in terms of the challenges that a startup would face versus a challenge that a mid-sized organization would face versus what an enterprise would face. So since I'm working a lot, I have been working with enterprises. However, on my independent capacity, I work a lot with startups and mid-sized organizations. And their challenges are very different in terms of how do we make sure that marketing is driving us revenue and is influencing or helping in our top line growth. Now, the challenge that a mid-sized organization would face would be about a handshake between various functions with marketing so that it's a very consolidated way or a structured way of working together towards a common goal, which is building more demand, getting better revenue, basically ensuring that the entire customer journey is something which is well informed and being taken care. There are no leaks. There are no, there are no gaps. I'm not only just looking at a new customer acquisition. I'm looking at a combination of new customer acquisition and my customer retention, so that my CLV becomes something which is maintained and or is better. Whereas what a startup would face is, there are budget constraints. Maybe the founder or the leaders of the organization would be playing multiple hats. They would be doing multiple jobs, whether it's about marketing, whether it's about sales, whether it's about handling operations. So their challenge is about how do we bring growth, how do we bring demand by not doing a lot of manual activities. Now, it's a very common challenge that I face is, we know we are good in this, but our consumers do not know. You know, I'm not good in just one thing. I'm good in so many other things, whether that's a product or a service-based organization. What is happening within the four walls of the organizations need to be, put across in a wonderful way, a noise which is bringing more opportunities and conversations or discussions for that organization to show them as somebody viable or credible to help them out. Now that info, that noise is something that the marketing is doing through smart marketing activities. Now, when I say smart marketing activities, it's not about just putting out some content, maybe rolling out an email that we do da da da. And what happens is there are so many emails we all get on a daily basis. Why would I open this email versus 50 other emails that I have received? So that's where a lot of personalized content is done basis the segmentation, the consumer segmentation that's built. It's very important for a small organization or mid-sized organization. Obviously, the enterprises are obviously already doing it. It's really important to identify the ICPs of an organization, basis which the content is customized and personalized, and is provided or given out in the most, I would say, relevant manner, which is not just about being there on multiple channels, but being there on the channel where my consumer is engaged on or is available. So it's a combination of offline and online activities. That's where the narrative is not just restricted to what marketing is doing. It's also about a strong handshake that sales is doing with marketing, because the narrative has to be consistent. Communication or the entire brand narrative goes out as one. When it comes to offers, when it comes to services, when it comes to success stories, it's all something which is relevant to what is needed on the ground. And who's going to provide that information? The sales is going to provide that information. How it's going to be provided not just through data that marketing is already collecting, but it's also through a lot of insights that sales and the ops teams are providing to marketing, which becomes a part of the marketing communication. So it's a very ground level activity. Usually, as the organization is scaling, the size becomes bigger. It starts becoming there's a certain challenge of working together and not working in a siloed way, because every function of the organization has their own KPIs, and every function is important in an organization. But how the marketing is conceived by other functions, by not just helping them from outside, which is towards the client, marketing is actually helping them internally also. And that's where enlightenment or this sort of conversations are really important within the organizations, because today marketing can provide a lot of support internally, whether it's through for human resources, whether it's for operations, whether it's for sales, even for finance. Everything can be taken care or can be benefited through marketing.
All benefited through marketing. You said something also that I want to decipher. Can you talk about, and this kind of does lead to marketing, but what makes you want to open one email out of 50 emails that you get, people selling to you all the time? What is the difference, even on just that demand generation or client acquisition side? What makes you think people stand out? Because I also do think that does relate back to marketing. But yeah, what makes one person's email stand out compared to 100 other that get landed in all of our inboxes every single day?
I would say that I would ask this question from you, because obviously, any person today, you get so many emails. How do you decide which is the best one, or which is the one which is worth opening? And then the second step is worth reading. What makes you decide? And then I'm going to tell you.
For me, what would make me decide is, I just guess, the personalization a little bit. Like if I see there's, okay, this is what will make me decide personalization. But then guess what I'm going to do? When I see the email, then I'm going to go look at the person who's emailing, and then I'm going to go and Google them. Say, okay, yes, you've sent me a nice email, but then I'll go and Google them. And then depending on what I see, can then make me want to reply or not reply. So it depends. That's what I would say.
Absolutely. So, you're very close to what I was about to say. It's really important that, the hook that you get, the 2 to 3 hooks that, invites or encourages any user to open that email. One is the personalization part, which is the subject line is something which is intriguing for a consumer who's opening that email. For you, what is going to be relevant may not be relevant for somebody else. So if I, as a marketer, want to send out an email to a segment of yours, I have to be very relevant to what is going to resonate for you. And of course, it comes with a lot of A/B testings and insight-driven understanding or intelligence, and that's how the initial hook is created. Along with that, the brand recall. You have already seen anything and anything good about this brand on multiple ways, on multiple channels, maybe on social media, or maybe in any form you've heard about this brand or product, or maybe through a influencer you've heard about that product. That also entices you to open that email and check it out, because that's where you would want to engage with that brand, because you've already got that vibes of credibility and trust from them. So it's a combination of I would say both, that which is resonating to you as an audience.
If I was to ask you, what are you doing in 10 years from now? What's your vision? 10 years from now, what's your vision? What's Shivani's mission in life and in business? Yes. What would you say you're doing 10 years from now?
So that's a very tricky question, Sugita. So in fact, this is something I was discussing with one of the leaders in my call yesterday. It's a complete change we are seeing today. The way um, people are working on, there's a lot of job cuts that are happening in organizations, and obviously there's an insecurity of a way organizations are leveraging AI, and there's a job cut happening. There are a pressure of upskilling on any individual, whether it's somebody who's started very fresh to somebody who's been in the organization for last 20, 25 years. And it's really important for anybody to adapt to the modern way of working, which is adapting to AI, adapting to tech driven activities, adapting to the way consumer is behaving and changing. So what I see in next 5 to 10 years is that there'll be a lot of dependence on intelligent work than the manual work. And that's where, I would want to leverage my expertise, where I do a lot of focused work towards what is needed in that landscape, rather than just being doing everything, because it's really important that we really don't need, in coming years, we would not need people who are just focused on doing one activity, or one niche area. It would be something that will be, I would say, a T-shaped hybrid model, where organizations would look at people who have come from a very broader horizon. They have all the knowledge, but they have the ability to solve the problems in a very focused way. So it's something which is going to be very different to what is currently happening. And I would say overheads is something which is going to be always a problem for organization. They would look at reducing that. So subject matter experts are going to play a very important role in the coming time. And that's where, in fact, it's something I already see, that there are in-house resources, but there is a certain difference in the way in-house resources work, because they have their own set of limitations and apprehensions and how the organizations would work. And that's where subject matter experts fill those gaps, and give results in a more in a better, in a more faster, speed efficient manner, with less cost. So that's what I see is going to be the next bell that we would see, or the bell ringing that we would see in the coming years.
A true visionary like you are, and being able to predict what's happening and go towards that. By the way, guys, I do want to tell them a little story. We had a meeting beforehand, and you said something that I just picked up on, and you said, Sujira, in the B2B space, user generated content it's getting bigger, it's growing. And that hit me because, a little bit of background, what I do for some companies, like the product based company e-commerce, they will usually pay me sometimes to do user generated content, right? Showing their product because, I'm funny, I'm cool. Okay, cool. But then I thought to myself, wait a minute, did you hear what she just said? She just said for B2B. Me personally, I never thought to use UGC for B2B content. I always thought podcasts. I did one user generated content for my business, and I got in a lead. So maybe I should even send you you should send me an invoice. I should give you commission. But I got a lead come in from your advice, just from you saying, Sujira, I see UGC content in the B2B space getting bigger. Can you talk a little bit about that for people who don't know what I just said? Of course, we're passionate about this, but I'm just, for the person who's watching this, how can user generated content help people in the B2B, and where do you see that going?
First of all, congratulations. That's a great win, and I'm so glad to hear that. When I say user generated content, that's UGC. We're really talking of content which is building, which is a byproduct of confidence. It's not campaigns. It's a byproduct of confidence. Now, the challenge that B2B faces in UGC, where the failures happen, is we are paying to a consumer to talk about my product. I'm not saying everybody's doing, but there are instances, there are organizations doing that. We pay to the consumers to talk about our product. We have scripted content that goes out to an influencer talking about our product. We have scripted content that's going out as a marketing collateral. And with with AI, the content building has obviously become very easy, and it's something which is adapted very quickly by organizations. Now, difference in how it's going to be positioned and how you're going to create that uniqueness in your product is the essence, the sentiment of the consumer in talking about your product, and it has to be very natural. Like I said, Svikira, earlier, it was about, just putting across that communication. Today, it's about how you put that communication across. That's where the difference lies. And it's really important that confidence and trust and credibility is built in a very natural way through the consumers, through your partners, through your vendors, through your, I would say, even your own employees. Brand, any brand where the employees are talking great about the organization in whichever way, whether it's product, it's culture, it's sentiments, it's longevity, whatever. It's ultimately it's ultimately helping the brand, and not just from a, from an employability perspective, but also a trust that a consumer automatically takes because he hears that the people feel nice about this brand. And what happens inside the house is actually the noise that goes out, you see. So it's a very natural way of building confidence. And in B2C, GoPro was one of the first few brands that started with UGC. We saw Colgate doing that. We saw, chocolate brands doing that. And in fact, they played a very pivotal role because it actually helped them revive their reputation issues that, some of these brands had faced a couple of years back. Now that became cluttered. It's still going, but it became cluttered. There's a shift in that also, where influencers have started playing a very important role. Obviously, it's helped them in reducing their cost of not hiring the big the biggies, instead of being more natural with people who are the common consumers of that brand. But in B2B, this is exactly what is now happening, where it's not just about the biggies who are the face of the organization, it's about the consumers, what they talk about it. And consumers could be different, like I said, internal employees, your own vendors, your own partners, your own consumers, existing, past, prospective.
Wow, I love the way you really break things down in such a strategical way, but it makes it very simple for people to understand and apply. So, Shivani, I want to play a game, and the game is I will say a word, and whatever comes to your mind, you let me know, and then I can get you to explain it. Yeah.
Oh my God, okay.
CEO.
Tom Cooks.
Explain. Oh, that's a good. I've never heard someone say that. Give me why. I've actually never heard someone say that. That's a good one.
Apple is still the status symbol of for a lot of people, despite the kind of competition this industry has. And of course, Samsung playing beautifully, a lot of other players playing beautifully with maybe the top notch features. And somewhere, Apple is still Apple for them.
But just quickly, let me touch on that. Like, what have they done so well? It's so true. Before this call, I said, "Oh, you got AirPods? Yeah, West. I've got an iPhone. So, what have they done so well? I could not go there for my life and go get a Samsung. I'm sorry. Even when people talk about Samsung in front of me, I'm just like, I even just get away from me. Like, so what have they done so well?
I think it was a vision that Steve Jobs had portrayed out in his very early conversations and town halls, where the vision was, I want to build a product which becomes a status symbol.
Mm.
And that's what they're living on, Well, it may be the best product, but for somebody, it may not be the best product, because again, the perspectives change. For certain people, something else is more important than the brand that they carry in their hand. It's something which is very subjective in terms of the opinion. Today, if any brand is ensuring that my retention remains intact, this is playing stronger, I think that organization is doing a beautiful job, because I truly believe that having one retained customer is equivalent to hunting for four new customers.
Very, very, very true. I could ask you 1,000 more questions on that, but let me stop there. CMO.
I would say I have a lot of people in my mind, and I would not be able to take any one name, but I really, follow a lot of CMOs where they're doing a fabulous job. And I will pass this question, but I think I have a lot of people in my mind. I would not name one.
Okay, name one. Resilience.
That's a tough one. You want me to name one person?
Not a person, but just anything that comes to your
Anything.
mind that when you think of resilience, what do you think of?
Children.
Explain.
The kind of resilience you see in children with the way they adapt to the changing environment, It's something without any resistance. It's something which is an inspiration to elders.
That's very powerful. I really love that children, right? Like, that, yeah, it's true, that resilience to just have that imagination and to keep going. That's quite powerful. My next
Very
question,
inspirational.
yeah, yeah, very, very inspirational.
That's one of the challenges. One of the challenges I see a lot in organizations where the longevity of of an employee in an organization should not decide on the credibility, or should not decide on the decisiveness towards something which is changing. It's all about, adapting to new things because change is always good. Of course, there are risk factors always being calculated. Anything and everything where there is adaptation to change, adaptation to, things going wrong and quickly, kind of reviving that change that has happened or the damage that has happened. Coming out of that is something which is inspirational, the way we see in children. It's totally pure without
Mhm.
any, baggage.
Very pure, quite powerful. Personal brand.
I would say Apple again. I'm not endorsing Apple at all, but I like the way people take it as a personal brand. I have used Samsung myself. I'm using Apple now, but I have been a Samsung user also. I would say that shift is still to happen where a Samsung user says, I would not want to go away from Samsung anymore, even though the features would be surpassing any other, but it's like that. A lot of personal brands, I would say the major change that I'm seeing currently today here is even the personal brands now with the startups coming up and talking about organic stuff, talking about the value of the product, which is about the quality and the value of the product, is surpassing the brands were being taken because they were brands. It's more about value. It's more about the quality and obviously the cost, which is this is the shift that we're seeing in consumers. Consumers are not blindfolded now. They do not go with the fact that I would consume this because it's a brand. In certain ways, I'm talking of specifically in FMCG or even in the hospitality industry or even in the, I would say, health industry. It's to do with service that you provide. It's to do with the quality that you're providing with the cost effectiveness, and that's where you bring the change.
The cost effectiveness. Yeah, quite powerful. And leadership.
See, I'm not a very political person, but I would actually give a lot of clap to the Prime Minister of India. He is a true example of leadership. Again, I'm not political. It's something from which is very personal opinion from the way the certain India is a very it's a big country, and the kind of challenges or the situations that this leader has kind of worked on is something which is tremendous. It's something which is not everybody would be agreeing with that. Again, it's a very honored subjective discussion, but it's one of the ways that he's shown the leadership traits in a right manner, which is towards the best that he could do in a certain way.
And speaking on the Prime Minister of India, what even just as, and even him, but like, what has India done so well as a nation? Like, why have they moved and advanced and continue to thrive so well?
I think there's a complete change in the way India is currently working, because with the large set of population which was dependent upon other countries, that's where a lot of emphasis is being given on development within the country. It's about, in Hindi they call it Atmanirbhar, but in English we say, self-reliable. So you see a lot of startups coming up the way in India, and the kind of products or services they are providing is surpassing, I would say, the standards that are built. And this was something which was lacking a couple of years back. It's something which is very, very honored and leveraged at this point in time, which is really helping in changing the way India was perceived.
Yeah, I really admire the way Indians have done so well. And just quickly, Shivani, what does that name mean?
So we have a god of the name Shiv. So it's the language of this god. It's basically the right language, which is the truthful language.
Language. No wonder you speak with such elegance and truth.
Thank
Amazing.
you.
Shivani, I want to thank you so much for such an amazing episode. Time flies when you're having fun. This was honestly really good. It's always a pleasure to learn from you. And I'm sure so many people on LinkedIn, this is on YouTube Live as well, for people to learn, well, Facebook Live, everywhere live, for people to learn from you and see how you've been able to thrive. And just quickly, before we leave, where can people find you? And, who are most of the clients that you work with, for anyone here who wants to work with you?
So I'm available on LinkedIn with the name Shivani Bhalla Narang, and I work a lot with like I said, I work a lot with founders and the CEOs of startups, SMBs, and enterprises. And what I do is not about just meeting your challenge, but it's something that could transform the way the organization is currently working from a marketing and sales perspective. So I bring that modern and smart marketing activities into the organization, which kind of helps them in transforming modern techniques through technology innovation, integration, and customer centricity. So I still take customer as the king, and everything should be revolving around that, because if that is happy, if that area is happy, everything is happy. Good.
And just a quick question, just quickly, because I love to ask questions, but how many, how do you work with your clients? What I mean by that is, are you able to take on more clients? What's your capacity like as a CMO? What is your kind of work, in terms of the clients that you work with? How does that look like?
So I work in a very dedicated fashion with my clients. I don't work, with 10, 15 clients together. I usually engage with one or two clients for the reason that there's a lot of intelligent work that is needed, which is driven by, research, insight, strategy, and also where I spend uh, my dedicated effort on, on the challenge that I have accepted, or the work that has been given to me. So I work as, an on-site marketing leader for the organizations, or hybrid manner I work with the organizations, because that kind of builds that confidence within the organization and for me, where I am, I'm the right arm of the founder, or the right arm of the leader, and not working just as an employee. So it saves their overheads. It brings me that empowerment to do things in a way which is going to be impacting the top line or the results more than the rules and regulations.
Working like as a partner, to them as well.
Correct. Working as a partner, right?
Yeah. Okay, Shivani, I want to thank you so much. This has been an amazing episode. You guys know where to find her. You will be able to see this out on all platforms. Thank you so much for your time, for your energy, and for, just being able to spread so much joy out into the world. And yeah, hope everyone enjoyed this episode.
Thank you. Such a pleasure. Thank you, everyone. Wish you a wonderful day ahead. Bye bye.
Thanks, Shivani.
Hey, what's wrong? Bro, I'm stressed out. I'm running my business. I gotta serve my customers, but I need more customers coming in. I can't keep relying on word of mouth. Why don't you just use ETS Rabasha Media? Who? Well, with AI now, what they do is they go in, get your perfect clients, bring them in front of you. So all I gotta do is run my business and he brings me opportunities. Think about it. You speak to 3,000 of your ideal customers, convert 1% of that 3,000, that's 30 people. 30 people in a room with you, can you convert that? Of course I'll close them. I'm good at what I do. I just don't have time to be going and looking for my perfect client. Focus on what you love doing and let them bring you customers. When you win, they win, commission, ching. Sujira Rabasha, huh? Yeah, Sujira Rabasha. Go and Google them, man. Come on, take it to the bank.
If you really enjoyed this video, make sure to click here, and I'm sure you're gonna love that one.